Well, employee ownership trusts were introduced by the government in 2014, and they're basically a structure to allow businesses to be owned by employees. Ultimately, what you do is set up a trust, and the trust holds the shares in the business on behalf of the employees. The decisions regarding the trust are usually made by the trustee directors, and they're usually a mixture of employee representatives, maybe a founder shareholder, and also potentially an independent director as well. Number of reasons. The principal one is retaining talent within the business and also boosting employee engagement, because basically what you're doing is handing over control of the business to the employees, so they'll feel much more engaged in decision making and sort of running of the business. It also tends to be an easier transaction to sort of negotiate, because you're selling the business to employees who already know the business, so there's less to negotiate, and especially if you're using cash within the business to actually fund the deal. And I suppose the other key benefit is that the government's incentivising founder shareholders to look at selling their businesses to employment ownership trusts by charging no tax on the sale proceeds. So the sale proceeds come out completely tax-free. No, it doesn't, and it's a key question at the outset for a founder shareholder to consider. If you need to have a look at a business and decide whether it's got a strong leadership team that sits below the current management team, who may well sort of step to one side slightly, and it depends on the nature of the business as to whether that sort of employee engagement is going to suit that business. And also, I suppose as well, from a founder shareholder perspective, whether they're happy to step to one side and pass control over to the employees. That's a fundamental sort of question, really. No, not at all. And in fact, in most of the deals we've dealt with, the founder shareholders have a huge amount of experience and expertise, and in actual fact, if they left the business, it would be pretty detrimental for the business. So the deals we've done, the founder shareholders have stayed in the business, they haven't stepped away from the leadership, they've just handed over control, so they're still influencing some of the decision making and bringing their expertise and experience to the business. The deals we've done have had two different, I've sort of dealt with both options really. The most common one is actually using the cash on the balance sheet of the business to fund the sale proceeds. So whatever cash is in the business is contributed up to the employment ownership trust and then used to pay the founder shareholders. And any future cash generated by the business can be used to fund any deferred consideration that might be have been agreed on the deal. But also the trustees of the EOT can go out and get bank debt and raise debt that way, and the bank will need to just get comfortable with the structure of the deal, because employment ownership trust structures are slightly complicated, and get comfortable with the management of the business moving forward, but that's another option as well. So one key thing about selling a business to an employment ownership trust is there is quite a lot of legislation around it. It's a real box-ticking exercise, and you can trip yourself up if you don't follow the legislation, so it's really important to meet all the criteria. The founder shareholders have to sell a controlling stake of the business. They have to sell 51% or more of the business. That's a fundamental part of the sort of transaction. The other part is that the trust has to be set up for the benefit of all employees in the business, and the employees themselves have to be treated equally and equitably. First thing, and I would say this, but get some advice, because it is a very technical area, and it's also a developing type of transaction. People are learning as they go through the transactions, the do's and don'ts, but you certainly need advice. And in that same conversation, it's worth considering whether this route to selling the business is the right one for your business and for you. Is the nature of the business suitable for employees taking control? Could the seller rather secure a higher price by going to the market and trying to sell to a trade buyer? You know, there are lots of considerations to bear in mind. Get an independent valuation of the business so you can get an idea of the true and real value of the business, and in the same context, consider how the deal might be structured. So how much cash can be paid on completion, how much of it needs to be deferred, and over what sort of term, because what you don't want to do is put the business under huge cash flow pressure by lumping a load of debt on the balance sheet. And then finally, culture. You know, some businesses don't suit employee ownership, so considering the culture is also a key consideration as well.